Hello.
Hey folks, today we're working on the restoration of a gun stock. My apologies, I didn't film the first half of this process. I really didn't think I was going to film it at all. But yeah, I guess Leo thought it was pretty interesting, so we're going to get into it. I had a stock given to me by a friend that wanted this done. And so this, when it came, had come in cosmoline, so it had grease all over it. And it had pretty rough finish altogether, like dings and stuff in it, and it would have had like a coat of something, some type of a varathane or something over it. And so we had to get all of that off, and the process up to this point to get it to look like it does at the moment was to, first I warmed it up a little bit. So I have a wood stove downstairs that we heat our home with. I know if you watch the channel, you've seen lots about our doing firewood. And so right over top of the wood stove, I just happen to hang this for a few hours. And that sometimes gets the cosmoline coming out of the wood a little bit. I didn't want to do that for very long because it is wood after all, and I don't want to dry it out too bad. And so I'm just, nervous about a crack or something appearing in it. And so I hung it up, I let the heat go at it for a little bit. Then I used some of this stuff, which is mineral spirits. You can buy that at any hardware store. And I just rubbed some of the mineral spirits over it with a cloth. Then I wiped all of that stuff off, and then I began sanding. Now, when you begin sanding, there's all kinds of different grits of sandpaper you can use. You could start off as low as something like a 60, which would be really rough sandpaper. I didn't go that rough because I was worried about how far down I would sand this. I had to be really careful not to sand too far, because when you're working with a gun stock, you'll find there are things like little metal attachments that you don't want to go down below the lip of that. Or in this case, there's a pin that runs through the stock over here. If you can see that little piece of metal glinting.
Let me just zoom in.
Yeah, you want to zoom in on that? It's right here.
Yep.
Yeah, and so you don't want to sand down to the point where you actually can feel that metal with your finger, or else, that's going to really bother you down the road. And so I was really careful when I came to those points to not even sand very much around them. But anyways, I think I started with 150 grit sandpaper therefore, and then as that started to take off most of it, I then moved to a 220 grit to take off the final layers to get it down to this nice wood color where you can see all the grains nicely. And when I finish this, I'll finish with a 320 grit, which is really ultra fine sandpaper to make this stock really, really smooth. But right now it's at about a 220 grit, still really smooth to the touch. It's really nice. We then started with our artwork, and I know this is a little controversial when you get a rifle, whether you want to personalize it, but I was asked to do some artwork on it, and because it was a Chinese manufactured rifle and it's not a one-of-a-kind by any means, I decided to go with a Chinese dragon, sort of a traditional dragon design. Okay, so that's a look up close of what we have drawn on the stock. The cosmoline's off, the varnish is off. We have our artwork drawn on it. Now we're going to start the burning, okay? And this here is the tool that we use for that. I was actually given this for a gift probably 35 years ago when I was a little fella. I was into artwork and I wanted to start on wood burning, so I got my start when I was around Leo's age, probably 9 years old or something. Yeah, this tool has actually lasted all that time, and you just plug it into the wall, and from here down on the metal area starts to warm up. This is a bit of a guard to try to keep from your hand slipping down, and you can see the thing kind of bulges there to keep your hand from sliding down, because this point gets really, really hot. You can also get different attachments for it if you want to look here. We were into some Nerf fighting today, weren't we, Leo?
Yeah, we actually had some Nerf things down here that we...
yeah, and Leo's Nerf gun arsenal is over here.
Yeah, we only have that many.
That's pretty good.
We just kind of started, but...
some of them have detachable magazines, 2 shotguns.
Yeah, at the end, I'm going to film a little video of us, of me shooting my dad with, like, the X shot, so...
It might be me shooting you.
No. I got my Nerf vest on, guys.
Okay, so back to this, Leo, look down, and these are the different attachments you can get for wood burning, and it gives you different options depending on what it is you're trying to burn. You can use these, like if I wanted to make dots, say a checkering on the stock, this might be a good piece there to use. But right now, most of the time I use this angle kind of one right here. And so then, if it's warm enough, we'll test it out and see if this is going to burn decently. Do you want to pause there and come around, Leo?
Yep.
Okay, so here's our dragon. We're going to test now to see if our tool's hot enough. It's been warming up for maybe 10 minutes while we film the first bit of this video. I want it to be really hot because I've got a lot of small spots here to do, and when I start to sear those in, I want them to go in really dark. You can sometimes play with that a little bit. If you want to do some shading, you can, adjust the temperature of this, as in start off when it's heating up and you'll get a little bit lighter, or let it cool off, unplug it for a second and it'll start to go lighter. But generally I shade by just the pressure that I apply. And if you apply a lot of pressure downward, it's obviously going to burn in darker. And if you kind of take it gentle around a spot, it'll be lighter. But in this instance, I don't want any shading at all. I just want this thing to sear in really dark before we apply our finish over this. So we'll start back here at the tail, and we'll work this way across the design. All right, so yeah, I would say it's hot enough. It seems to be searing in pretty good. And now this is going to be an extremely tedious design to do. I got to try to hold my hand steady. Leo's got to try not to lean on me. Let's keep shifting me. And this is, like I say, this is going to be really tough to do. So here's the start of the tail coming down. I kind of start with the outline of the lines themselves, and then I'll go in and shade the middle sections in.
So if you saw this dragon in real life, how big do you think it would be, Dad? How big do you...
This dragon here, I think, would be 30 feet long at least.
Gee, that's almost how high.
And he's going to breathe fire,
That's
too.
almost how high my dad climbed up the tree.
Yeah.
On the
Christmas tree
lights video. The giant tree that we have up there.
Yeah, and I since had a neighbor ask me to fix their siding up on the side of their house, because they watched our video and realized that I wasn't afraid of heights. So now I have to do all the high work around the neighborhood. Okay, so this is going to be really tedious going here, Leo. I think what we'll do is we'll pause there for a minute. We'll come back on and show you once I have a bit of the progress done, and then we're going to have to keep filming this in segments as we go to get this done, and then start the coats to do the finish. Thank you.
Woo! It's night.
Yeah, so I've been at this for maybe an hour or so. Here's a look at the progress. There, so it looks pretty good, I think. This is definitely a difficult project though to do because of all the small little spots that I have to try to burn in there. I'm having a lot of trouble getting my blade sort of to make the shapes, but it's coming. The other thing I noticed is that there may have still been some cosmoline in the stock because it seems to be oozing out at times when the heat hits it.
Look at how it's steady. It's hard.
Anyway, the oil's been smudging the, not the ink, but the pencil that I had on this. And so I'm losing a little bit of my diagram in spots. It's challenging. The other thing I noticed, I have a little burr on the end of my tool here. And I think that's for making it that much more difficult for me. And so I brought in a file here just to file it nice and flat again. And that should make that point a little bit sharper and better for me as far as my accuracy goes here and where I'm doing my thing. But anyway, we're going to go back to this. I think with another maybe hour, hour and a half or so, I should have it done to satisfactory. Okay, so our first pass is done. I got a little actually more to do right there, but most of it's burnt in. And so now what I'm doing is taking my eraser and I just go through and see what comes off when I erase a little bit. And that's going to tell me if there's spots that I need to kind of redo a little bit better detail. All right, our artwork is done. I've erased all the ink from off of it and made sure that it was burned in pretty good. Next, we're going to take the sandpaper and we're going to use this 320 extra fine grit sandpaper here. And then after that, I expect that's going to lighten this up a little bit, and I may have to go over it again with the burning tool. I wish Pennywise would stop sending balloons up into the shot. It would really be helpful. And we'll see what it looks like after we go and sand it down again. We'll burn it over again if we have to, and then we can apply the tung oil. Leo said he'd like to see flames coming, you know, out of the mouth and down the stalk, but I'm not sure if I'm competent at drawing those, that it's going to look good. And so I might just leave it there. So this here should get it smoothed down really nicely. And this will remove any other pencil marks that I might have had on there. Okay, the final sanding is done. I think it looks really nice. Couple darker spots in some of the grooves and around some of the metal parts again. So you really got to be careful how much you sand down in spots like that. But I think it turned out great. After sanding this down, there's a little bit more. I might want to darken up a little bit in there, and there's a spot up here on the cheek. I think I need to darken that in a little bit, so I'm going to plug my tool in one last time and do just a little bit of those lines, maybe down here on the claw, and then I think we're good to go with the finish. Okay, so I'm just going over this for my final time. We did our final sanding. That sort of exposes any areas that need to be darkened. And I'm not looking to shade this design at all. I want it to be all one uniform dark color. So I'm just taking my time right now. I just went over the claw here, and I'm trying to get this here all nice and like even kind of and dark. And then I'm going to go over each of my pieces basically that I've already done, and just make sure that they're completely filled in. Right here, for example, you can see a little spot right in there that has to be gone over. Little piece missing out of there. So I'm trying, like I say, to go around now and make sure that everything is all nice uniform color. And when you get really down and look at it, you can see the different marks from the wood burning tool. That's pretty hard to get away from, but as you come out a little bit, it all looks pretty uniform. You don't really tend to notice that too much. We still have our coats of tung oil to do, 2 or 3 coats of it. By the time I'm done, I'm going to think, you know, this got to be about an 8-hour job. Not everybody, again, really appreciates doing something like this on a gun stock, but I think compared to just the bland stock, this is pretty unique and it's going to look pretty cool. So I hope you guys like it. Here it is from a little bit of distance, and you can see it's looking fairly uniform. And then as I go down really close, you start to see more of the texture that it has from the tool I'm using, where it kind of marks into the wood. You could use probably all kinds of different brands, but this is a type of tung oil. I notice it does say down here contains pure tung oil, so I would say that this is definitely not pure tung oil. It also has, you know, some ingredients listed that say mineral spirits and different things are in it. Not necessarily a bad thing. It still creates a great finish, but just be aware of that if you're out looking for wood finishes. If you want pure tung oil, you've got to look for that product. The stuff that you're going to get at your local hardware store or whatever it is probably isn't pure tung oil. Anyway, to do this job, I've got just a cheap foam brush, and I'm going to throw a bit of this in my can. I just take it and apply a good liberal coating of this stuff over your entire stock. Yep. You can see it applies sort of like water. It's not a very thick like kind of finish.
If I zoom in here.
Yeah. And some people like to put all kinds of it on and then wipe it off after a few minutes. I usually just try to paint it on in a coat, and then I'll let that harden. Like, I will wipe it down if there's any excess sort of bubbled in spots. But I'll apply it all on, and then yeah, make sure it's smooth, and then let this sit for a good 24 hours. If it were pure tung oil, it might have to take 2 or 3 days to dry, but likely by this time tomorrow night I'll be able to apply my second coat. And I'm just going to get this stuff all painted on everywhere on the stock, and then after a few minutes we'll come back and just show you what it looks like there. I don't think we're going to do any further videos on this here because it's going to be a few days and a few different coats that I apply. So we'll probably leave it at that. Once we get this first coat on, we'll show you how it looks. And likely this is going to darken the wood a little bit and give it a little bit more of a sheen kind of to it.
But also, guys, one of our last videos, I think it was our last one, we asked some new channel names. And my dad thinks it should be Forest Farming Fodder. Wait, no.
It's a tongue twister. We keep saying our channel name is
I
look
up his
twister.
channel every different. Like, so
and Leo gets it wrong every time he says it.
What's our channel name this time?
Father-son farming forestry is what it's been forever, and it's like a tongue twister.
I was thinking in that comment, I was actually agreeing with him, and I thought it would be
Family Forestry.
Family Forestry, yeah, perfect name. But my dad thinks it should be Family Forestry Farm.
Forest Farm.
Family
Right. So we did.
Okay, so I think it should. My dad thinks it should be that name, but I don't necessarily agree with him because that's just freeloading stuff from our own name.
Right. Well, we did do a vote within the family, and between my nephews, Maddie and Ben, and my mom's, and Leo, everybody's voted for Family Forestry, so we think that's what it's going to be. Thank you for the gentleman who put that in our comments section.
Yep.
And yeah, from now on, when you guys are searching the channel, you can look up Family Forestry. It should be a lot easier to go and query. Cool. All right, we're good there for now, Leo. I'll come back on when I get this coat of stuff done.
Yep. Bye. Like and subscribe.
Here's where we're going to leave our video. This is after one coat of tung oil has gone on, and I think it turned out really nicely. If anybody's interested in me doing this for them, leave it in the comments. You can ship your gun stock to me, and I'd be happy to put some artwork on it.
So like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.
Yep. Bye.
Cheers.
This took my dad a lot of time.